In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. Every package moves through a secure nationwide network tracked from door to door with affordable upfront pricing and delivery you can depend on. Because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else. Visit USPS.com/ground advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Live from the campus of Texas A&M Texarkana, it's the Stacking Benjamins Afford Anything Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and on this joint episode, wait, hold on. I get to share the stage with Paula Pant? Yes! We're answering questions from the amazing Eagles. They're getting back together. What questions do our next great generation of Sabres have? You'll find out. Plus, halfway through this special episode, we'll meet some of the brilliant minds studying in the greatest small city in the USA and have them compete in a special edition of our trivia competition. And now, a guy who's not used to being let out of mom's basement, so we'll see how this goes. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Hey there, Texas A&M. How is everybody? I am Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter. Super happy that you're here, and I'm super happy that I'm here with all of you. Everybody ready to have some fun? We are going to hear from some phenomenal students here at Texas A&M Texarkana, this beautiful campus that's in this very natural setting. It's a great place to be. It's so weird to not being with just Doug, who today we hit up in the rafters because we don't want Doug, to get any ideas and hog the show. So we have a couple of guest hosts today. Let's introduce our very special guest co-host. He is Executive Director of Financial and Entrepreneurship Engagement here at Texas A&M Texarkana. Mr. Jay Davis is here.
Glad to be here.
How are you, man?
I'm doing great. We have beautiful weather here in Texas, and so we're having a great time and glad you're here.
Well, I am glad to be here, and I'm so happy that when I said, you know what, we would have a fun partnership together, man, and you said, let's do it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was easy to do. You know, we wanted to do something big with the RRCU Center for Financial Literacy and Investment here, and we're really just wanting to focus on allowing our students to learn to manage money better, and we can't do it any better than doing it with you.
Well, thank you. Stop. Keep going. Stop. What's great, Jay, is you see building all over this campus, and most of our stackers have never been to Texarkana. People keep telling me this is a made-up town, that there is no such place. But there's building all over here. You are building very quickly. What's going on here at Texas A&M Texarkana?
So we are the fastest growing university in the state of Texas and arguably nationwide.
Wow.
And so we're looking to have 4,000 students here on campus this coming fall and to get that to 8,000 here in the next 6 to 8 years.
That's
and you
incredible.
Can't do that without doing some building.
There's a ton of building going on. Paula Pant, who's here with me, who we'll introduce in just a second. Paula was like, wow, there's just construction all over this place. Let's talk about you and your money journey. I think you and I had a conversation, didn't we, Jay, that, Paula has been great with money for a long time. I was not. If I remember right, you're more like me, where you had to kind of learn this stuff yourself.
Oh, it was disastrous. And that's one of the things that I do whenever I work with our students is I'm up front. There's some mistakes that I made whenever I was younger. And one of the scenarios that I give is if I were able to go back and download all of the income that I have reported to Uncle Sam from SSA.gov and then multiply that times the 0.8 to 10% growth over my lifetime, I would have a very nice bank account. And I didn't, and I don't. And so right now, my wife and I are playing catch up to be able to do that. But I want our students to know these incredible formulas, compounding interest, that can get you there.
It is so exciting when you're as young as many of the people in this room are, like the head start you have. And I didn't know, you didn't know what a head start it was.
I didn't. And a lot of these students, their parents were just like mine. They really didn't have a lot of conversations throughout the family and let them know exactly what they needed to do. And so it's fun to have them on campus so that they can learn these very, very valuable tips.
It is awesome, by the way, having you here. We had a little event at my house last night, and a lot of the people told me that you're like the best cheerleader on earth for these people. But you also give them hope because you're very honest. You're like, hey, I am playing catch up. But what's cool is, and you already know this, you can't go back and redo stuff, but you certainly can start today no matter what age you are.
Well, and that's the thing. You have to start because if you wait till tomorrow, you're going to wait till the next day. And so by starting, you can get something going. We just have communications about emergency funds. You can't build an emergency fund until you start it. Even if we start with $1 a day, we can get to that $500 goal, then we can get to that $1,000 goal, and then we can get to whatever we can agree to, whether it's 3 to 6 months.
and I love that. Just hit pause, stackers, and just get started. Come back and listen to the rest of the episode. Like, do it now. Don't put it off. Well, let's not put off, Jay, meeting our lovely guest who's here from Manhattan, this little town, finally coming to the big city of Texarkana, Jay, to join us. She is the star of the Afford Anything podcast, and our always Friday guest, Paula Pant, is here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Welcome to the big city.
Why, thank you. It is a beautiful city. You know, I was out on the porch all day today, and everyone's so, kind. The hospitality is amazing. Yeah, I love Texarkana.
I told Paula, Jay, that we're just closed in July. Don't come in July.
It can get warm.
Slightly, yeah. And also, the head of economic development for the area also was trying to get you to move here. Are you going to move to Texarkana?
I will not be moving here, but
1 star.
I will be visiting more often because you're going to have a studio here very soon.
We will, downtown.
A downtown studio. And so when that happens, I'll be coming here regularly so that we can record our Q&A episodes in person. So my podcast is the Afford Anything podcast. Joe is our regular Tuesday co-host. Joe, you and I answer Q&A. We're
doing what we're going to do tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So we answer Q&A on the Tuesday episodes of Afford Anything. And once your studio is ready, I'll be coming back to Texarkana regularly so that we can do that recording in person.
Jay, you work with the city as well. You're on the city council. This initiative she's talking about isn't just me. For our stackers around the country, there's a lot of development going on, and part of that is this thing called the assembly line.
Yeah, super excited about bringing the assembly line online. We're going to have it open at the end of this year. So we're looking at probably November, and the podcast and audiovisual area that you will be able to take advantage of is top of the world.
Can you tell everybody what this space is, what it means?
So it's going to be an incubator space for entrepreneurs here in East Texas and Southwest Arkansas to come and basically expand their ideas and take advantage of the network that we're going to build for them to bring in experts to be able to talk about just simple things of why you want to put your LLC in a company rather than your Social Security number, and why you need business insurance. You know, what is the next step that you want to take for marketing? There's going to be all sorts of different workshops that they're going to have available.
It's super exciting. You can just, we'll have a link in the show notes, but you can also just Google the Assembly Line Texarkana. You'll see it. Come down, hang out with me. What's cooler than that? I mean, come on.
Well, and I got to say, I toured through it yesterday through the, it's construction right now. It's totally under construction. You're seeing tools everywhere. You're walking through the sawdust, but you can really see it take shape. You see the wall studs. You see the steps where there's going to be a lunch and learn, and you can really get a sense of wow, this is going to be an incredible space.
It's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
First class. Speaking of first class, let's take some questions from these first class students of ours, shall we? While we get our first question up, we've got a few sponsors who help us keep on keeping on. We're going to hear from them. Today's letter, we're brought to you by the letter A. A for awesome, the awesome students at Texas A&M Texarkana, and brought to you by the Vault. The Vault very soon is going to give you the ability to track your net worth, to do your budget, to work on your privacy, to get rid of subscriptions. It is a Swiss Army knife, stackyourbenjamins.com/vault. And we've got a couple more sponsors. We're going to hear from them. And then you're going to hear just how awesome the bright minds at Texas A&M Texarkana are.
Well, running a small business, as you may know, like I do, it is super fun, but it can also be very tough. And when it's time to get a loan, it can feel impossible to find the lender that you actually trust. Big banks say no. The internet, well, that's full of sketchy offers with sky-high rates and fine print you can barely read. Whether you need help covering payroll, managing cash flow, or investing in growth, you deserve better. And that's why I recommend the small business marketplace Fundera, which is powered by NerdWallet. It's a free, easy-to-use platform. It lets you compare real financing offers from trusted lenders, and it's all in one place. And what I like is that you don't need perfect credit to get started. There's no spam. There's no bait and switch. Just personalized options that fit your business needs. Nothing I like better than a place that treats me the way that they would want to be treated. Using Fundera is a super way to quickly compare options and make your best funding move the way any great business owner would. Here's the best part, though. For a limited time, when you visit nerdwallet.com/SB and fill out the no obligation form, you're going to get VIP treatment and talk with a real person who knows all the ins and outs of small business lending. And you can tell them specifically what you're looking for. They can tell you specifically which options you should probably consider most. Don't risk your business on unreliable lenders. Go to nerdwallet.com/SB to learn more and find the funding you deserve. Fundera Inc., NMLS ID number 1240038. Well, there's nothing that relieves stress more when you have had a long day, you are completely fried, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I'll just go out to dinner. But then you think about all those calories, all that money out of your wallet, and then you realize that you can eat healthy because you found Factor. Factor is ready in 2 minutes. Factor shops, preps, cooks, and delivers straight to your door, so you have more time for everything you love this spring, and you don't have to worry about eating healthy and going outside your budget because you've got the food sitting there in the fridge that you had pre-planned. What is Factor? Well, Factor has meals built around your goals, whether that's weight loss, overall nutrition, more protein, or GLP-1 support for strength and workout recovery. Check out Factor's Muscle Pro collection. Every meal's crafted with functional ingredients, lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. Factor bans 175 plus ingredients. No artificial colors or sweeteners, no high fructose corn syrup, no refined seed oils, just nutrient-dense foods. It's fresh, never frozen, over 100 rotating weekly meals, including globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian, so there's always something new to look forward to. I use Factor. I think you're going to love it too. Head to factormeals.com/SB50off, stackers, and use code SB50off, and you're going to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with new subscriptions only while supplies last until 9/27/2026.
And we're back. We have our first question. Everyone, let's give your first name before you ask the question, if you don't mind, and maybe what your major is, and then ask away.
My name is Hannah, and I'm a psychology major. My question is in regards to the passion versus paycheck versus peace trade-off. How can a student in their early 20s determine which trade-off is truly worthwhile without looking back 10 years later with regrets?
Wow. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much. We are told a lot of the time, guys, when you're in college, follow your passion. That's what you should do. Paula, do you like that?
I don't believe in follow your passion. So there's a more nuanced take on this, and it comes from a professor at Georgetown named Cal Newport. He talks about, rather than following your passion, he talks about follow your curiosity. And his hypothesis is that, passion is such a loaded word. Most people don't know what their passion is. Most people aren't like, oh yeah, I'm really, really into, whatever. And so when you put that kind of weight on a word, it's just too loaded. It makes it too weighty. His passion hypothesis is that passion is the consequence rather than the precursor. And so his hypothesis is that if you have a minimum viable level of curiosity about something, then you go deep into it, you start learning more about it, and the more you learn about it, the more you realize how little you know. Once you realize how little you know, that makes you want to learn more about it. And then as you learn more about it, you become even more aware of how little you know. So this is kind of the opposite of something that's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger effect is people who don't know much about a field think they know a lot about it. The opposite of that is the more you get to know a field, the more you realize how little you know about it, and the more you want to learn more. And so as that cycle continues, that's how passion develops. And so passion becomes the end result of following your curiosity rather than the precursor for it.
Jay, it's so funny. Even here at our Target, I was walking through the aisles at Target. At the Target in Texarkana, we are selling ring lights for potential influencers, right? Even here in town. Because listen, when you're 18 and you hear follow your passion, what do you know? You know TikTok. It's very difficult to follow your passion when you're 18.
Well, and I think at this age, you want to be able to find a marketable job that's going to be marketable in 10 years. I think right now, with the focus of even AI, our students are really needing to understand exactly which of those job fields are going to be able to be reliable in the next 10 years. And sometimes,
because that's changing quickly.
It is changing quickly. And so when you start getting the passion, there's a lot of incredible, well-meaning positions out there that are not going to allow you to do the things you want to do. And so when you're in your 20s and you're in your accumulation age bracket, that's when you need to be making money. And in my opinion, you can let the passion hit you a little bit later and really find out what your passions are later in life once you've started to experience things.
I think it's a great point because I had a client back when I was a financial planner. It's been a long time since I was a financial planner, but back when I had a client who was very passionate. But you know what he did? He made stop signs for a living. Like, imagine getting passionate about stop signs. Like, I'm sure there's nobody who goes, oh, you know what, when I'm 50, I hope I make stop signs. Like, that's not something you get passionate about. But he got passionate about the relationships that he had with cities, the way that he would work with the cities, and he would make sure that, he got to be an expert in safety. But he certainly wasn't spending all day going, if I could make the perfect octagon, like, how great would this be? Wow, that octagon's way better than the last one.
Well, the research shows that the three attributes that really determine how a person feels about their work are mastery, autonomy, and purpose. For example, if you make stop signs, but you have autonomy over your work, you can make decisions, you have autonomy over how you spend your days. Do you start at 9 or do you start at 9:30? Do you check your email first thing or do you make some calls first thing, right? You've got a little bit of autonomy over how you structure your day. You've got autonomy around some of the decisions that you make. Do you go with this vendor versus that vendor? You've got that autonomy. Because you've got that autonomy, you can start to improve your processes. And so that gives you mastery, right? So now you've got autonomy, you've got mastery, and then the third piece is purpose. You need to be sure that what you're doing, like with stop signs, maybe you're creating a great work environment for your team. Or maybe there are certain practices within the industry that you find to be a little bit shady and you're running your business in a way that doesn't do that, right? And so that's how you have that purpose piece in it. And so as long as you've got those three qualities, autonomy, mastery, purpose, you're likely to enjoy what you do.
Jay, I want to go to you for the other side of this because another thing Hannah talked about was regret. Later on, you get 10 years down the road and you regret. And we've all seen that before where somebody goes into a field and you get into the field and then you realize, oh no, this is not at all what I want to spend my life doing. When you feel that regret, how do you actually have the bravery to make the change, even later in life, to go do the thing that might light you up more?
Well, the very first thing that I talk to the students about is developing that emergency fund. And when you have the ability to leave that job after 10 years that all of a sudden doesn't have the same purpose that you originally thought it was going to have, it's not providing you with that fulfillment, then you've got the ability where you can leave that job and you still have some financial, stability to be able to go and find that next adventure. And so for me, just establishing that emergency fund early, and that's the importance of it. You are able to leave when you want to leave.
A friend of ours writes pieces for the New York Times, and she wrote a piece that the New York Times had at the front of the finance section that was talking about not emergency fund. She called it the F-off fund, where you're telling your boss to put it nicely, take a hike.
Right. It's a powerful way to say it, but yes, when you have the ability to tell your boss, F you, there's a certain level of freedom that comes with, and it's just one of those cards in your back pocket that you hope you never have to play it, but when you know that you have the ability to say that, then you don't feel trapped. Even if you love your boss, it's nice to know that you have an out.
And I may use that F off in my one-on-one sessions, but just not in my normal workshops.
You know what's interesting, Jay, is that because I like you attaching the emergency fund to the ability to switch and not regret. But there's another thing there too, which is a lot of time when I speak to students, they ask 50 variations of how do I get into debt up to my eyeballs? How do I get my credit good? How do I afford my truck? How do I get a house? How do I do all these things? The more you stay out of debt, the easier it is also to make a mid-career shift.
And I will spin it to the emergency fund and the budget every single time that they want to start coming and talking about other topics. And so the big four that we talk about is going to be, of course, budget, emergency fund, and then we're going to go with debt reduction and credit management. Those are the four things that we pivot off of.
Because credit definitely is important.
It sure is.
Keeping it clean is a great way to go. Wonderful question. Thank you so much for that one, Hannah. We've got another brilliant question.
I'm also Hannah, and I'm also a psychology major. As someone who is moving to a new job and making more, how do I prevent overspending and put the raise to good use?
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. So here in Texarkana, we just have everybody named Hannah. That's the rule. If you move here, you got to change, which is why Paula's not moving here because there's already enough Hannahs.
Well, I guess I could make my middle name Hannah. Couldn't I add Hannah to my middle name?
Paula, Hannah.
Yeah.
Pant.
Paula H. Pant.
Paula H. Pant.
Paula H. Pant.
That sounds great. Let's go there. All of these students, Jay, are going to graduate. I remember my best friend in college got a great job with MetLife right out of college. He immediately went to the Pontiac dealer. Remember that old brand of car, the Pontiac? Bought himself a Grand Am, got payments immediately because he had a full-time job.
Yes, that may have been me. I had a black Grand Am. And,
did you really?
I did. And here's the deal. I actually bought that thing off the truck and didn't even test drive it. I was the water cooler discussion for the auto dealership for years because they were like, that guy right there, we got him. But I've learned. Yeah.
But you see this every day, I'm sure, Jay, that you've got students and they're getting ready to graduate, and that is the biggest threat.
It is, and of course, one of the discussions that I have, and I'll pick on our nursing cohorts, I jokingly tell them, do not go and buy the sports car as soon as they're about to graduate, because you don't want to set yourself up with that $700 to $1,000 car payment when you haven't even found your place to live yet. Yeah. Because if you do, wrap yourself around with a lot of student loan debt and a very, very high car payment, you're going to be living in an area that you may not want to be living in.
Well, and there's a big difference between renting in Texarkana and renting, Paula, where you are in Manhattan.
Yeah, exactly. What I would say, Hannah, is you're already living at a certain spend rate right now. Maintain that for as long as you possibly can. So when you get a raise, pretend that you didn't. And ideally, you almost want to play a game with yourself where you are tricking yourself into forgetting that you got a raise. The best way to do that is to set up automatic transfers so that the same day that that paycheck hits your checking account, you have an automatic transfer that's going to a Roth IRA. You've got automatic money going to prior to even when the paycheck hits, automatic money that's getting pulled out into a 401k or a 403b. If you have any debt or student loans or anything like that, you've got automatic money, ideally on payday, that is coming out of every single paycheck that is going to anything that will improve your net worth. So when you talk about retirement savings, when you talk about debt payoff, when you talk about an emergency fund, what do those three things have in common? They all improve your net worth. And so if you can automate that on payday, what you want to do is just set up a situation where when you actually check your checking account balance, it looks exactly like the budget that you're already used to as a student. So that way you just trick yourself into forgetting that you ever got a raise and maintain that for as long as you can.
Yeah, I'll give you permission to maybe spend a little more money. But what I would say is this, and what I love about what Paula said, is that right now having roommates may be fun. If you have roommates, it's fun. Once you get rid of roommates, then you become a little bit bougie and you don't want to go back. So have roommates for as long as you can because you're used to having roommates. Later on, when you're not used to having roommates, it will stink to go back to roommates.
I disagree. So I had roommates, then stopped having roommates, and then that got really lonely. We were talking about this last night. It was fun for a few months, but then it just got lonely. So then I went back to having roommates again.
So maybe, unless you're Paula.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, for a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to have roommates anymore. For the vast majority of people, I think that is still true, though, for a lot of people.
Lonely people.
But there also is this feeling, which is not true, that you were a failure if you go back, and you just don't want to have that feeling like I'm doing it because I have to. And so the longer you can keep things the way they are now and funnel money into places, man, we get calls sometimes from people that are 30 years old. And the cool stuff that they've done that Jay and I did not do, because by 30 years old, they have so much flexibility built into their life. And it only takes 2 or 3 years of living the same lifestyle you are living as a college student to really achieve that. There's this cool rule called the Rule of 72. And I think it's really, really fun to go through the Rule of 72. If you graduate and you're able to make one Roth IRA contribution this year, let's say you're 22 years old, the Rule of 72 is this mathematical, magical rule. It's just this great rule of thumb that says if you take the interest rate you think you're going to get, you divide it into 72, that tells you how long it's going to take your money to double. So let's say that you think you're going to get an 8% rate of return. You make a $5,000 contribution when you're 22. That means that's going to double. 8 into 72 is every 9 years. So it's going to double every 9 years. So it's going to double when you're 31, when you're 40, when you're 49, when you're 58, and again, normal retirement age, 66, 67. So we'll have a double one more time. So that $5,000 you put away at 22 isn't $5,000. The first time it doubles, it's 10, then it's 20, then it's 40,000, then it's 80,000. That one contribution at 22 years old is $160,000, Jay.
And at 22, you're not going to miss $5,000 if you're putting it back every paycheck. You're just not going to feel it. Another thing that I'll also work with our students on, and it's a lot easier to say this than do it, but if you have that invisible raise, for that first year, don't even live off of it. Just go ahead and put that right back into your emergency fund, or go ahead and max out, what you can, deposit into your Roth IRA or traditional.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. But this time, I think this is really an inflection point. When you graduate, if you set up these systems, Paula, right away, it's going to be great. If you don't set them up right away, 3 months after you graduate, it's going to be really hard because then you have to backtrack. You've already been spending the money. It gets much harder if you wait 3 months. Do it immediately when you graduate.
Right. And I think the key thing that he just said is set up systems, because if you have to log in and manually do it every month, you forget. You forget. The more that you can just set up the systems and automate it, like set it and forget it, the better.
Well, I was joking about Hannah's earlier. I think that's the end of the Hannah's. Let's see if everybody else can keep up with the Hannah's, Paula.
Yes.
My name is Gabriel, and I'm a civil engineering major. My question is, what is the safer investment strategy? Stocks, IRAs, 401ks, or gold and silver?
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you, Gabriel. Thanks for the question. And engineering. I would have been an engineer if I knew what one was, by the way. I thought an engineer just drove a train, Gabriel. I was sure. But I had no idea.
So I want to put a little context around this question because you said stocks And then you said IRAs.
It's a great question, though, because this is everybody has questions like this.
Yeah, exactly. I hear this question a lot. And so I want to take a moment to elaborate on why these are different things. And so imagine that you're at a bar. Imagine there are all sorts of different
students, they've never been in a bar.
You're at a house party. Imagine you're at a house party.
They don't do that either.
And there's all kinds of different glassware. So you've got a coffee mug, you've got a red Solo cup, you've got a champagne flute, you've got a pint glass, you've got a shot glass, you've got a water glass, like the, what are those called? Just glassware?
All the drinking implements.
Right. You have a martini glass, right? You've got all of these things. And then you've also got the liquids that typically go into each one. So an IRA is an example of a piece of that glassware. An IRA or a 401k or a 403b or a Roth IRA, those are all different pieces of glassware. So that's the equivalent of a coffee mug, a martini glass, a champagne flute, a red Solo cup. Then the liquids that go inside of it are stocks, bonds, gold, silver, any type of asset.
CDs.
CDs, just cash.
Yeah.
Those are all the liquids that go inside of it. And there are certain types of liquids that are generally better inside certain types of glasses. That this is something that's called asset location, like what's the best liquid to put inside a certain glass. So like generally speaking, beer is drunk from a pint glass and champagne is drunk from a champagne flute and coffee is drunk from a coffee mug. But there's no actual rule saying that you have to do it that way, right? So you could put coffee in a champagne flute.
Yeah,
if you wanted to. Part of the reason that we chose the question is because the first piece of it was that I wanted to differentiate between an IRA versus the other components of the question, between an IRA versus stocks, gold, silver.
So when you graduate, there's going to be these different classes to choose from. I can put money in a savings account. I can put money at, we should say at Red River Federal Credit Union,
Absolutely.
Right? Since they have underwritten this. We can have a savings account. That's a glass. Mm-hmm. We can drink out of that glass whenever we want.
Right.
We can have a brokerage account. We can have stocks. We can have bonds. And we can drink out of that glass whenever we want. If you get a 401k glass or an IRA glass, there's rules about when you can drink out of that.
Yeah, so a 401k or an IRA is basically an agreement between you and the government in which the government says that they will give you a tax break if you promise not to spend that money until you're a certain age. So a lot of people think of it as a quote-unquote retirement account, and that can be a little bit misleading because retirement is, in many people's minds, retirement is a job description or the lack of a job description. Like retirement is a description of your work status, and technically a 401k or an IRA isn't a retirement account, it's an age-restricted account. So basically, you're just making a deal with the government that if you don't touch that money until a particular age, they will give you a big tax break.
It is a great way to segregate money, though. I mean, if you're not going to spend it for a long time, if you want to make sure that you have some money after 59 and a half, which is the rule on most of these, put it in those accounts because you'll save money on taxes. But then inside of there, let's answer Gabriel's real question, Jay, which is this word safe, right? Which one is safer? I think safe has a lot of different meanings.
Well, you could have a 401k and it still not be safe because it depends on what you chose to put your
what
money
that drink
inside.
is.
Yeah, what are the drinks? What's the mix of drinks inside?
And so even that can be a little scary when you start using the word safe. And I think the students now understand the word inflation a little bit better than I understood it whenever I was their age. Because right now, with inflation being what it is, you start looking at your gold and silver, that's not quite as safe as it was because of inflation. For me, it's a little scary to be able to just talk about what's safe and what's not. A lot of it has to do with what your comfort level is and what your risk tolerance is going to be.
Yeah. Well, and I think for me, the big thing is time frame. Because safe over the short run, if I need to spend the money in the next 6 months, putting money into the stock market is not safe. But if I am going to spend money 20 years from now, putting money in a savings account isn't safe. It feels safe, but it's going to get eaten up by, Jay, what you talked about, by inflation. So you're going to very safely never have any more money. You'll actually have less money to spend based on the amount of bread you can buy than you had before. But stocks as a rule over long periods of time are very safe if you buy them in a diversified collection of them, because of the fact that you are buying the economy. And if a company's going to make money, they have to beat inflation.
Right.
They have to make money for their investors. And so if you're investing in Coca-Cola is what makes inflation, right? The price of sugar goes up. The people at Coca-Cola don't go, well, the price of sugar went up, we're screwed. They go, no, we're going to find a way to make Gabriel pay more money for that Coca-Cola. And when they do, all the investors reap the benefit of the higher price that they were able to, have better advertising.
Right.
So owning Coca-Cola means, by definition, if Coca-Cola succeeds, they're going to beat inflation. And that's a great place to be and a safe place to be long-term as long as you're diversified.
Right. But to be clear, that doesn't mean that you should necessarily pick Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any individual stock, because if you're trying to pick winners and losers, you might be right, you might be wrong. Even professionals who spend their whole lives learning how to pick winning companies or losing companies, more times than not get it wrong. Statistically speaking, yeah.
We did a show recently with a couple people that studied stock market pickers. They have a brand new book out that's great called Stock Market Maestros. The best of the best had a 45% hit rate, which means 45% of the stocks that they picked were winners. They lose more often than they win. And these were the best of the best of the best. These people have maestro in their title, and they're horrible. So they were saying the average person's hit rate is about 1 out of every 3 stocks.
Professional gamblers, 54 or 55%.
Right. So just take it to Vegas, Jay, and we're done. That's the kind of teaching we do.
Well, and I do want to go ahead and share, too, your 401ks become safer when your company is going to provide a match. So anytime that your company is going to be able to provide that match, I'm going to recommend that you're going to at least take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, free money. You were talking about diversification, though.
Right, exactly. So the 401k, again, that's the coffee mug that you're drinking out of. But in terms of what you actually put inside of that coffee mug, you don't want to put individual stocks in there, because you, more times than not, the probability is that if you're picking individual stocks, you are likely to get it wrong. No matter how smart you are, even if you're doing this full time as a professional on Wall Street, you're more likely to get it wrong than not. And so instead what you do is you buy what are called these broad market index funds. And that means that you are buying the overall market. So when you turn on the news and you hear like the Dow Jones rose or fell, or you hear that the S&P 500 rose or fell, or the NASDAQ rose or fell, that's what you're buying. You're buying the entire S&P 500. You're buying the entire Dow Jones, right? And so you're going to do as well or as poorly as the overall index, which is essentially the overall economy. No better and no worse.
And over long periods of time, your return has been around 8% doing that, versus over the short run, a savings account is going to earn a couple percent. 2, 3?
Yeah, and so with an 8% return, that goes back to the rule of 72. If over the long term you're going to be earning 8%, that means your money will double on average every 9 years. But the important thing to remember, and I got this wrong when I was in my 20s, is that the stock market is not a high yield savings account. We're talking about over the very, very, very long term, meaning like 20 plus years, it's likely to do well. But in the short term, in the next 3 years, who knows? So if you need that money in the next 3 to 5 years, don't put it in stocks.
I know a lot of people, Jay, that you brought up Las Vegas. I mean, you brought up gambling. And a lot of people think the stock market's gambling, which if you need the money tomorrow, the stock market is gambling. If you need a long time from now, Paula's index is much safer.
Well, and we had a discussion a couple weeks ago at one of our workshops, and it just talked about the prediction markets that are even starting to hit out there, Kalshi and some of the others. There's still a huge risk involved when you start playing with something like that. So, for me, it's going to be your 401ks, you're going to put, your index funds and not play with prediction markets and Las Vegas.
Those drive me crazy. It's such a horrible thing. Those are 3 great questions. Those are fantastic questions. We're going to have 3 more fantastic questions in the second half of today's show. But if you're new to Stacking Benjamins, what you don't know is on our Friday shows, we have a ridiculous competition. And the good news, Paula, for you is you don't have to compete today.
Woohoo! Because I always lose.
Paula will say out loud on our show, she'll go, I think the answer is 100,000. And then she'll bet something else. And then the answer is
100,000.
100,000.
Yeah.
She's in last place in our year-long competition, but we're going to have a one-day competition between 3 of our Texas A&M Texarkana students for an amazing prize. Maybe the best book ever written, Paula.
Page 13 is the best page of that book.
I wonder who we reference on page 13.
Geez, I wonder who's quoted on page 13.
That's so
Might
weird.
that be Paula Hannah Pant?
That's so strange. Yes, we're going to give away a copy of my book, Stacked, Your Super Serious Guide to Modern Money Management. Let's meet our contestants. Contestant number 1, who are you and what's your major?
I'm Stephanie Sanchez, and my major is nursing.
Stephanie in nursing. Big hand for Stephanie. All right, contestant number 2.
I'm Thomas. I'm an accounting major.
Thomas in accounting. Contestant number 3.
I am Peyton Perkins, and I'm also an accounting major.
All right, we got Stephanie, Thomas, and Peyton. All right, Doug. Doug's up in the rafters. Doug, wake up. It's your turn to shine, buddy.
Hey there, Eagles. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and yes, the classroom. I remember those days fondly. Yes, a nap in the back row hiding from the professor's glare is truly a nap well earned. Am I right? I'm so right. Well, no napping on today's trivia question, and in the spirit of being back on campus, I've got a little story problem for you. We thought about asking a finance question, but instead we asked, what if your mascot needed a side hustle? So, okay, riddle me this. If an eagle flies at about 30 miles an hour and we paid it federal minimum wage, because apparently we don't believe in paying the actual talent, how much would it earn flying nonstop for 24 hours? Okay, Eagles, what's your guess? Because one of you is about to win, and 2 of you are about to realize that you wish you'd had your phone to Google what the federal minimum wage is.
I think Doug forgot. We're talking to university students. They may know very well, Doug, what the federal minimum wage is. I knew it very well when I was this age. All right, here we go. It is Stephanie's turn. Stephanie, if an eagle flies at 30 miles an hour and is paid the federal minimum wage for 24 hours, how much money would it make?
$150.
$150. Nice guess. All right. And I got to write these down. And Thomas, what do you think?
I'm going to go 160.
100. I see how this plays. You guys have listened to the show, haven't you? He's like one step up. Yeah. All right. And then Peyton?
I'm going to say 170.
170. All right. We've got Stephanie at 150, Thomas at 160, Peyton at 170. Who's right? We will be right back with the answer. In business, there is no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. And when you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on, because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else, your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business. Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken.
the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you. I had a breakfast mentoring meeting yesterday with a young woman who was just amazing. She is graduating from college with a degree in wealth management, and she reached out hoping for some pointers. And listen, if somebody's in Texarkana and wants to go into this beautiful field of personal finance and helping people get their money together, that is incredible. But even more incredible is how she reached out, how she was trying to network. And I was having a discussion that finding the right person and avoiding the wrong person for a role, that's what can make or break an organization. And we just don't see that many qualified people. So how do you find them? Well, Indeed sponsored jobs is a boost whenever you need to find quality talent. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. You can stop struggling to get your job post even seen on other sites. You'll match with quality candidates with Indeed's sponsored jobs. Get matched with and hire quality candidates who can drive the results you need. Reach candidates who meet your specific criteria like skills, certifications, or location. It drives me crazy when I'm matched with all kinds of people who aren't a fit. I don't have that kind of time. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 95% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored job. And here's what's cool, Stackers. You're going to get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Stacking Benjamins by saying you heard about Indeed right here at Stacking Benjamins. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
All right. Stephanie, Thomas, and Peyton going after it today. Stephanie, so you guessed 150. You got to hear your fellow students guess 160 and 170. You think you're going to win? You got it?
Probably not.
Probably not? I don't know, man.
Lucky guess.
150 sounds good. Thomas, yours looked good until Peyton decided to take away the upside. You're the sandwich, but are you close enough that maybe you got it?
It's simple. I just can't do it on the spot right now.
This one is more simple than we made it. It is, but we knew that you wouldn't be able to have your phone and you're in front of a group of people, so it's going to be tough. Peyton, you got all the upside. If it's $1,000, you're going to win. You feel good?
I'm a competitor, so I think I win this one.
There we go. All right. Let's see, Doug, who is taking home the book?
Hey there, Stackers. I'm underpaid bird advocate and guy who just learned OSHA probably doesn't cover wildlife, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. So I was upstairs earlier talking to Joe's mom about this question, just normal conversation. And I said, hey, what if we paid an eagle minimum wage? Because that's a normal question. And she just looks at me and goes, why would you do that? And I said, well, it's working 24 hours straight. And she goes, it's not a job. It's just like flying. And I'm like, yeah, but for the eagle, it's working from home. Because it's in the air. In the sky is where it works. Because, okay, if you think about it, lots of people work from home. But like this eagle, it lives at work. So technically, it's the most committed employee we've ever had. Hello? Is this thing on? All right, it seemed better in my head at the time.
I think he just exited. I think he's out.
Yeah, I think the Eagle just quit, Doug.
The Eagle just quit.
And Jay, aren't you proud of this? You built this whole program just so Doug could have the world's longest trivia question.
Well, I thought it was a good question, so let's see which one wins.
All right, Doug, if you can wrap this up, this is supposed to be an hour-long show.
Yeah, so anyway, we asked, if an eagle flies at about 30 miles an hour and we pay it federal minimum wage for 24 hours, how much does it earn? Well, the answer is $174, which, by the way, is less than a parking pass on a lot of campuses around the country. But here in Texas A&M Texarkana, you're getting a whole lot more value than that. Congrats to our winner. Hey, everybody, come on, bring it in. Let's take a photo.
Hey, Peyton wins. Peyton's our winner.
She got
Nice
within
job.
$4. She got within $4. That's pretty impressive.
I know. Nice job. And yeah, I saw Thomas light up, and then I saw him go, damn, I got the math, but I don't have it. Nice job, Stephanie. Good work. Nice job. Big hand for all three of them. All right, let's get back. Now that we have the ridiculousness out of the way, our fourth question comes from...
Hello, I'm Stefano. I'm a business major, and my question is, what are a few common money mistakes college and grad students make that I should avoid now that I'm still in school?
Awesome. Thank you, Stefano. What are some common mistakes?
I'd say a lot of mistakes come from going to one extreme or the other. So on one side, and I think this is the mistake that you hear about more frequently, you have people who spend too much and get into debt. But on the other side, you also have people who are too cheap to the point where it is debilitating, to the point where it holds back your life. There are certain things, even as a college student, you don't have a lot of money. Most college students don't have a lot of money. But if you can, to the extent that you can spend some money doing things that will allow you to build your career, maybe that means that you get one nice shirt, just one, that you can wear to professional events. Or maybe it just means that you've got gas money to go to that professional event, right? That you can put the gas in your car to go to that networking event. Those are the things that you don't want to cheap out on. Anything that will allow you to build your network and increase the odds that you're going to make more money in the long run, those things are worthwhile.
Jay?
Well, for me, there's two things that our students really talk about, and that's, using credit cards. And sometimes they use that either as a reward or they use it as maybe a supplement to their income. That right there is a concern when you start looking at 20+% interest rates. You're basically taxing your future self whenever you get into that role.
Yes,
and
supplement to the income is the one that always makes me cringe. I don't have enough money, so I'll just put it on the credit card, figure it out later. Not good.
And then the second thing that our students can do is at times they're going to take out too much financial aid, so they'll actually get what financial aid calls a refund. And to me, that's not a refund at all. But they're going to end up having some extra money that they're now going to be paying interest on whenever they graduate. So, not spending that money and just going ahead and turning right back around and paying that loan back off rather than using that refund to buy the latest iPhone or pizza or anything else out there.
For me, a common mistake that I see students make that they will continue to make, and this isn't just in your financial life, it's that you think that discipline is the answer. And discipline fades as the day goes on. You get hungry. Discipline gets replaced by Bubba's down on the freeway. Discipline gets replaced with splurging. So it isn't about discipline. It's about systems. Whenever you think I need discipline, replace that with systems, and it's great. So how can I systematize my money? What can I do to make sure? As an example, for me, I was a guy who used the credit card all the time, and so I had to cut up my cards. I'd have no access to credit cards, because if it was in my wallet, baby, I was using it. Like that was going to happen. So I set up a system to make sure that I won. We talked about with Hannah, putting money away, automating money, going into savings so that you've got that emergency fund that Jay talks about, having that as a system versus telling yourself that I'm going to put some money away. If you tell yourself you're going to put some money away, you never do it. If you have it automatically go into the account, it'll happen like clockwork.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that you should systematize, and this goes back to the earning more money portion, because especially as a student, the most powerful thing that you can do is to increase your earnings capability.
Oh, you stole my next one.
Oh, mind reader.
Man.
Mind reader.
Yes. We don't ask for raises enough.
And even in that, there are systems that you can start to implement in your life. Like if you get somebody's email address or contact information at an event, follow up with them immediately. Don't wait until the next day. Just do it that night. Do it in the car on the way home. Make a system for yourself this would really be more of a habit, but like as I'm brushing my teeth, that's when I follow up with people. So that way your brain links brushing your teeth to that follow-up.
That's the thing, Jay, that I think is so important that I didn't know. I don't know if you knew, but when I was in college, all these professors were people, I remember that they would reach out, they'd try to help. I didn't want to bother them. I saw other people that network with the professors, the great minds that were around them, some of the people that were maybe people they admired in their classes, staying close to those people. Like when you're on a college campus, network as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. And the professors that I've been able to get to know here on campus love to be able to do that for our students.
Yeah.
And to be able to share more than just what's on the syllabus.
I regret not doing that more.
For me, it's going back to the professor maybe the next semester or that 3 semesters after you've taken them and just following back up and just saying, hey, appreciate what I learned in your class, or, hey, can we go grab a cup of coffee? I'd like for you to introduce me to some industry people that you know here in town.
And they're happy to do it, like you said.
And one more thing I wanted to jump on is we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'll start later. That is a big mistake. I'll start later in developing an emergency fund. I'll start later in developing my budget. I'll start later in savings. That fallacy of I'll start later is big.
Yeah, and building those habits right away, so important.
Oh, and just one other thing I wanted to say on the topic of like following up with meeting people, following up with people, professors, whoever it might be, industry people. One thing that I did not understand when I was in college that I only learned later in life, I thought that what mattered was my resume. And in real life, what has mattered are my relationships, my professional relationships, not my resume. And now being on the hiring side, both Joe and I have hired people in our businesses. I don't want to speak for you, Joe, but when I go to hire, the first thing I do is I talk to the people around me and I say, I'm looking for somebody to fill this type of a role. Do you know anyone? It's that word of mouth recommendation. That's the starting point.
And there's 2 sides of that. You still have to be good at what you do.
Right, of course.
Because I do see some people that think it's just all schmoozing all the time, and it's not.
Right.
Yeah, you have to have a reputation for being good at what you do. We have another awesome question.
I'm Valerie, and I'm an accounting major. What are some good money management tips to limit spending?
Oh, good money management tips to limit spending. Man, that's so hard. So I had to learn a lot of these, Valerie, the hard way. So Paula, you want to start?
Yeah, when it comes to limiting spending, there are 2 categories of expenses that you have. You've got your fixed expenses, like your rent, your car payment, if you have a car payment. These are the things that they're fixed in your budget. You're locked into a lease, and your rent is going to be the same amount every single month. And it's really hard unless your lease ends, it's really hard to get out of that. Same thing if you have a car payment, it's a fixed amount every single month, and it's really hard to change that unless you refinance that loan. Those are your fixed costs. And then you also have discretionary costs, or variable costs, I should say. Like you've got variable costs. Some of those variable costs are truly necessary, like groceries, and some of those variable costs are discretionary. That's where we talk about the iPhone and the pizza and the new sweater and all of those sorts of things. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that a lot of people, when they try to save money, the first thing that they target is variable discretionary spending. And the reason that people often target that is because it's the low-hanging fruit, and there is low friction, there's a low barrier to getting rid of those expenses. Like there is not a lot of headache or hassle around not buying a new sweater. You simply don't buy it. And I get that there are behavioral, There's the psychology of that, and there's the behavior, and there's the habit formation. But ultimately, at the end of the day, variable discretionary spending is the lowest friction category to eliminate. By contrast, when you talk about fixed expenses like your rent or your car payment, there's huge friction to changing that. To change your rent, you literally have to move out or get a roommate or get more roommates. But because those are so high friction, once you make that change, as difficult as it may be, it's locked in.
And much higher impact.
Much, much higher impact.
Yeah.
So if you really want to move the needle, go for the fixed expenses.
Well, Paula, you mentioned friction a few times there, and for me, it's make it hard to spend money. I can literally go a day or two or even three and not pull out my wallet anymore because I do have payments on my iPhone. And so I can just go scan a QR code and my groceries get paid. I can scan at the gas pump and my gas gets paid. If I want to order online, I already have my debit and credit cards already in the system. And so for me, whenever I'm talking to students that really are having an issue with spending, turn off the accounts. Make it to where you have to pull out your wallet and, heaven forbid, spend cash. But even if not, you still have to pull out your debit card or you have to pull out, whatever payment method, rather than just rely on just walking up and placing your phone on top of something or just scanning a QR code.
Yeah, most people think of a budget and they think of a pain in the ass. Like it's really going to be tough. So I like gamifying it. And I think turning this into a game and making it fun really changes things. There's this cool app, and you don't need the app to do it, called YNAB, and it's You Need a Budget. And I don't want to talk about YNAB, but I want to talk about why it turns it into a game. So if you really want to do better with money, do what the YNAB people do, and that is before the beginning of the week, plot out how you're going to spend it. So every dollar has a purpose ahead of time. So you begin your week and you're like, okay, I want to go out to a restaurant with my friends on Thursday, so I'm setting out this much money for that. And then I've got my rent due. I'm setting that aside for that. And before the week even begins, you've done all your spending. And because of that, you turned it into a game and you did it ahead of time. You're still having all the fun you had, but now you know where every dollar went. Versus what I did, Jay, it sounds like what you did. Friends are going out. I didn't expect it. And I didn't have any money in my budget for serendipity. I didn't have any money set aside. Oh, if my friends ask me to go out, I'm going to have $15 sitting over here, whatever the number would be. I didn't have any of that. I would just whip out the credit card then and get myself further in a hole.
Well, I have some phenomenal programming that I'm wanting to do in the fall. And if YNAB wants to contact me, they can. But I will go ahead and plug them real quick because our A&M students with their A&M email address get 1 year free of YNAB.
Oh, cool.
So there's no reason for them not to, but YNAB could still call me. We've got some programming that needs to be paid for.
I did not know that, and I brought it up. I fed right into that. But it is a great program for that reason because it turns it into a game. Cheryl and I have this weekly money meeting where we talk about how did we spend money last week? What are we going to spend next week? It's a fun meeting. We cap it at 20 minutes. We have a timer. We cap it at 20 minutes and it's done. And it makes it so much more fun. And we find in the weeks that we don't miss that, because we do miss it from time to time, we do really well with money just because we talked about it. Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to say, though, was this is a problem that I had with money when I was a college student. I would get really excited about this. And when you get really excited about personal finance, you decide, I'm going to live on ramen noodles every day and save every dollar. And that's awesome for like 4 days. So you have to build in splurges, because otherwise splurges are going to find you. You're going to get done with 3 weeks of doing great, and then you're going to say the words that are death for any broke person, which is, I deserve it. I've been great for 3 weeks, so I deserve it. And what I deserve it means is I'm going to go blow up all the good stuff I did those last 3 weeks.
No, that's definitely a common mistake that's out there. And another, tool that you can use is have that 24-hour rule. So if you've got something in the cart, if you've got something in the cart, leave it there. And if you still want it 24 hours later, then maybe it could be the right decision for you. And you may even get a discount because they want you to go ahead and check out. And have that magic number, and everybody's is going to be a little bit different. It could be anything over $50, anything over $100, whatever that magic number is for you and your family or your household. If it's over that think about it rather than just go and do that. That was probably and is the biggest thing that my wife would say I had an issue with when we were younger. I'm getting better.
Better. Well, that's me too, because I'm laughing because I have to do that with board games, and my board game buddy Angelo is hanging out with us tonight, and he knows it can be a problem. You get the new hot game, you want it, you're not even thinking about the budget. You think, ooh, this new thing came out, but putting it in the cart and waiting 24 hours, then you're like, do I need it today? Do I need it now?
And to your point earlier about increasing friction, I know people who, because there are a lot of websites where you can have your payment information saved. I know people who intentionally will not save their payment information. They won't save it in a password manager. They won't save it anywhere, so that you have to physically get out your card and type in all 16 digits in order to buy something. Even just that little bit of friction, because right now you've got that bright purple shop pay button that makes it very easy. The more you can not save your information in that, and your wallet's on the other side of the room, and you're in bed, and it's cold, right? And you have to actually get out of bed and walk all the way to the other side of the room and get your wallet and punch in the numbers. Creating that friction stops impulse spending.
It's a great theme. It's gone on all the way through the night. It's funny because the world is making it easier to buy.
Right.
But they're also making it easier to save. You got to decide what team you're on. Yeah. We have one more question, and he didn't win trivia, so he's back with the most amazing question of the night.
I'm back. How do I manage my finances and student loans after college?
Awesome, Thomas. Thank you. Finances and student loans after college, and you're a senior, right? This is a little bit like Hannah's question, but Jay, Thomas has his degree. He's got his new job. What does he set up first tactically?
Well, the first thing, you've got to do an inventory check, and you've got to figure out exactly if you have student loans, what those balances are, what those payments are, and get that set up with your servicer.
When they start.
That's going to be the first thing that you're going to want to do. And then secondly, you don't want to go out there and have that deserving aspect. I've made it 4 years, so I'm now going to go and spend every penny that I have saved up. And we've already alluded to this, but just start. Start developing the emergency fund, start saving, start developing your budget, and just start.
Hiding that money from yourself, like we were telling Hannah earlier, is so important, Paula.
Yeah, I think with debt in particular, with student loans, you'll want to be thoughtful about how much of your money you want to put towards student loans versus how much of your money you want to put towards starting your retirement savings. Because going back to what we said earlier about the rule of 72, every dollar that you put towards retirement savings when you're 22, assuming that you leave it there until you're 67, that's going to go through several compounding cycles.
5 doubles.
Yeah, exactly. I had some friends who were super focused on just paying off debt and wanted to be debt-free as fast as possible, and that's great. Like, it's coming from a good place, but don't let it come at the expense of retirement savings. And particularly, Jay, to your point, if you have a 401k match, definitely get the match. If you don't, because many jobs don't necessarily offer a match, you'll still want to put some money aside, even if it's unmatched, into a 401k, or if you don't have access to a workplace 401k, into a Roth IRA.
And this all starts with general mindset. We've had a lot of smart people that Paula and I have been able to talk to over the years that we've done our shows. There was a very brilliant guest we had on. I was very lucky to have him on twice. His name is Jonathan Clements. For a long time, he was the personal finance columnist at the Wall Street Journal. He actually passed away recently, sadly. What was really neat about Jonathan was he was so brave. He even wrote columns about the process of dying and all the things that you need to do. But what he wrote, I think that's important for us tonight, was he said, you have this choice. You're going to, almost like Paula, you say you can afford anything, but not everything. Jonathan said you have 2 choices. You can party in your 20s, or you can party later. You can work your butt off early and party later, or you can party early and work later. You get to choose which one you want to do. And he said, for most people, for him especially, he was very glad that he chose that he was going to work his butt off those few early years so he could party in the later years. But we all have that choice. And I think having that mindset when you retire, that this is not going to be forever. I'm just going to put my head down. I'm going to have roommates for a while, like we told Hannah. I'm going to keep living the same lifestyle just for a few years so I can get that doubling going. And then things get exciting in a hurry. And then Jonathan, sadly, didn't get to party as long as he wanted to. But I'll tell you, he lived a great life. And in his columns, you see that he lived a really great life.
Right. And not only that, but like he lived a great life. And towards the end of his life, the fact that he was still saying, I'm still glad that I did it, right? You know, so that his final years could be more peaceful.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back to your question about like, how do you balance peace and purpose and, you know, all of that? Like, there's a certain degree of peace that you have when you know that your finances are solid.
Great questions tonight. Let's have a big hand for the people brave enough to ask questions. It takes a lot of bravery to do that, especially in front of an audience of people in 48 countries are going to hear your questions that you had today. So pretty awesome that you did it. Let's find out what's going on with my two wonderful co-hosts. Jay, thank you so much for this partnership. Thanks for doing this, and hopefully we have a lot of these over the years.
Nope, that sounds great, and I definitely want to give a shout out to RRCU. We couldn't have done that
big thanks to Red River Federal Credit Union.
So great sponsor, and they always have a mindset of financial literacy, and probably one of the leaders in our region getting that information education out there.
What exciting things are coming up with your program?
Well, we're going to be moving into a new building, and we're going to have a Bloomberg terminal lab there.
Oh, cool.
And so we're coming up with Y'all Street coming to Fort Worth and the Dallas area here soon. So we're hoping to have a large group of students that are going to be getting into investment banking here.
And people that don't know what that is, that's a new stock exchange coming to Fort Worth.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so the great state of Texas is going to be battling it out with New York.
Yeah, watch out, Paula.
Wall Street versus Y'all Street.
I like that. But you're going to be front row of that.
Absolutely. And we're wanting to be, the regional leader here in financial literacy education. And we want more people to know how to manage their money better so that they can enjoy retirement and do the things they want to do later in life.
And the cool thing about coming to school here, it's an affordable education.
Absolutely. And, we've got all sorts of scholarships that are available. And with our growing population and the fact that we're adding so many athletic teams here, you're getting the full college experience here at Texas A&M Texarkana.
And you get to hang out with me and Jay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Paula Pant, thank you for joining us in Texarkana.
Of course.
What's going on at the Afford Anything show?
On the Afford Anything podcast, we have 2 episodes a week, and on our Tuesday episodes, this guy right here, Mr. Joe Saul-Sehy, joins me, and we answer Q&A. We have a wide variety of questions that we answer, covering anything and everything from debt payoff
A lot like today.
Yeah, a lot like today. So you can find the Afford Anything podcast on your favorite podcast player, like if you've got Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts. So yeah, if you want to listen to me and Joe answer more Q&A, tune into Afford Anything.
And to all of you hanging out with us online, whether you're afforders, you're stackers, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for spending the last hour with this very special episode from Texas A&M Texarkana. Doug, you've got it from here, man. What should we have learned today?
So, what's stacked up on our to-do list for today? First, take some advice from Jay, Paula, and Joe. When thinking about financial issues, think, how do I simplify the issue? Often, the simplest answer is the best. Second, also when asking questions, think, what is the question I truly should ask? Often we get a better answer when we challenge our own premise. But the big lesson? Really? I narrate this entire episode way up here in the rafters, risking my life, and all you're giving me for this is 3 Oreos and a Capri Sun? Seriously, I gotta get an agent. Which one of you students would like to get into show business? Thanks to Jay Davis for joining us today. Looking for a great financial curriculum? Come to Texas A&M Texarkana and work with great people like Jay. We'll include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her... fabulous podcast afford anything wherever you listen to the finest podcasts. This show is the property of SB Podcast, LLC, copyright 2026, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. And oh yeah, before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.